Good morning. So to start with, we need to recognize the fact that we have obtained this very precious human life. We call it precious human life. Precious human life. And as I explained earlier, the preciousness of this human life is not so much in terms of physical agility or physical strength, but it is definitely primarily in terms of the mental intelligence. We have great mental power, mental intelligence. So it is important to use this human intelligence in the right way. Right way meaning to engage in a way of life which would directly or indirectly help others and not create more suffering. That is the crux of the matter. That is the essence of the teaching. So these days, sometimes when people ask me to give a talk, sometimes I feel a little bit reluctant because we already know so much and we are not practicing. That's the problem, including myself, all of us. We already know so much. So while knowing is extremely important, the more you get knowledge, the more you get awareness, it is going to be of some help. But unless you start doing something, start practicing something, then you will not be able to test the flavor of the Dharma. You will not be able to taste it. It is just like talking about various types of delicious food, You just arrange all the nicely cooked dishes over there on the long table, and then all of us should just keep on talking about all those different varieties of food, and none of us tasting it. How would it sound? You see, it's not going to fulfill our need. So it's not just about talking, it's about doing. It's very important for one's own life, for the peace and happiness of one's own life, and thereby for the larger peace and happiness of all sentient beings, or at least human beings. So that we need to clearly understand that point. Very, very important. So as I was saying, there are many things we know. So what we need to do is to do a kind of rehearsal and homework. Okay, this I know is right, I must do. This is wrong, I should not do. And of course you will fail many times. It's not easy. It's just like asking somebody who likes chocolate not to eat it, He or she will try, but because he or she is so fond of chocolate that they will find some time to get a piece of it. So our situation is almost like that. We are habituated with many of these temptations. So it's not easy. But at the same time, if we constantly have a dialogue with oneself, constantly tell oneself, okay, this is not right, don't do. This is right, you must do. Now you are being lazy, don't be lazy, get up, go, do these things for others, That's how you can make your life meaningful. And that's how you can bring harmony, peace in the society. That's why Buddhist teaching is so important. It's so relevant in today's world. And in fact, today evening at 3:30, we have invited a professor from San Francisco to give a talk here. So if you have time, that may be also interesting. He's talking about experimental Buddhism. And he's recently published a book which is primarily based on the current situation of Buddhism in Japan. And he's going to give the talk in relation to many other countries. When Buddhism comes into contact with many different countries, with different cultures, different religions, then people try to tailor it, unfortunately in some cases, to suit their own temperament. So they will unfortunately change Buddhism beyond recognition. That is also a threat and risk. And at the same time, it is also important to make sure that Buddhism is relevant in today's world, today's changing world, you see. And therefore, even like when we talk about change, you see, one very important thing that is taught in management business is, a very important lesson that's taught in management business is when everything is changing, you stick to what is unchanging. You see? So that's a course taught in management, but this is exactly what is being taught in Buddhism, you see. When everything is changing, you should understand those that are more unchanging, in the sense that are more reliable, more everlasting. Like, for example, impermanence means change, but we need to understand impermanence. You see? We need to understand interdependent origination. These are the kind of everlasting truth. So if we get hold of these truths, then be it in business, be it in your life, be it in terms of Buddhist practice, whatever, you are going to fare well, because you are living your life in accordance with reality. So it is important to understand Buddhism in such context, you know. So therefore, as I repeatedly mentioned earlier, that the most important thing is to constantly keep a watch, you know, of your mind, your body, your situation. Constantly watch yourself. That is the key thing, that is the key factor. Because we are very good in watching others. He is doing that, he is doing that, he is not good, he is not good. I mean, that's actually, from Buddhist viewpoint, that's none of your business. If they are doing bad, they'll go to hell or whatever, you see. It's none of your business, you see. Unless you have genuine concern to help that person, then you have a right to say something. But in most cases, we have no wish to help others. We simply enjoy finding faults of others. And especially you highlight others' faults to show that you are much better than that person. Oh, he is doing that, meaning I am not doing that. Oh, she is doing that, meaning I am not doing that. I am a good person. Which is, you know, praising yourself is highly, highly discouraged in the Buddhist practice. You know, what is taught in Buddhism is the practice of humility. So therefore, as the Bodhisattva Thongme Sangpo in his 37 Bodhisattva practices, especially around the end of his text, he says, unless you examine your own faults, your own mistakes, in the garb of a religious practitioner, you will end up doing irreligious activities. In the garb of a religious practitioner, you may be a lay person claiming as a Buddhist practitioner, or there may be somebody who is a monk or nun claiming to be a good Buddhist practitioner, but still that person is an ordinary human being. There is temptation, there is delusion, there is afflictive emotion. So there is every likelihood that you can get trapped with this, the glamours of the sensual objects. You get trapped very easy, very easy. So therefore, he says, therefore, you should always watch your mistake, watch your faults, and try to correct it. For your own goodness, as I was saying earlier, you see. It's not doing a great sacrifice for others, for your own goodness. So in simple words, as I repeatedly said, that take good care of yourself. That is what is being taught in Buddhism, you see. Because if you are able to take care of yourself, you are able to take care of others. And we already discussed those verses that talks about protecting yourself. Why you protect yourself? You protect yourself because you want to protect others. If Tibetans want to protect their country, first they have to protect themselves, meaning they should look after their physical health, mental health. And there's no need for me to make a lengthy description on this, what is meant by physical and mental health. Okay? So that's the rule of the game, whatever you do. And then we also read the verse, number 7, what is the meaning of protecting the body? It is giving up that which is harmful. Just as those who abide in upholding the Dharma would not harm others, similarly we should protect our body, meaning you should not also harm yourself. This means that we should practice protecting our body. Protecting our body here means protecting one's life by protecting the 3 gateways, body, speech and mind, through which fresh moral corruptions occurs. That means whether it's doing something good, It has to be done only through these three gateways, either physically or verbally or mentally. There's no other gateway. So similarly, when you engage in moral corruption or engaging in negative deeds, it has also to be done either physically or verbally or mentally. So always check yourself. Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. Don't speak more than needed. Watch your mouth. And I sometimes jokingly tell people that whether it's nature or God, whatever, we have 2 eyes, 2 ears, but only one mouth. Meaning, speak less, see more, 2 eyes, hear more, 2 ears, speak less, 1 mouth. Okay? And then, your body also you should watch, whether your hand is helping others or harming others, whether your legs are helping others or harming others. So your whole life should be as in tune with this Bodhisattva practice. Your whole life should be dedicated towards helping others. The very meaning, the very purpose of life is to be of benefit to others. I mean, if you look at the nature, you see, even if you look at the trees, they may not have a special motivation to help others, but they are helping everybody. And they look at the 4 or 5 elements, the fire, the air, the water, they are there for us to help. But they never expect anything in return, you see. So Bodhisattva's way of life, the desired goal, which is not easy, the desired goal, and Bodhisattva's way of life is that I am helping others because that's the best thing I can do in my life. And that is the best source of joy and happiness in my life. And all the difficulties, problems, sicknesses, lack of harmony, disruptions, ups and downs, miseries, depression, loneliness, all these 100,000 diseases. In Buddhism we talk about 84,000 classes of afflictive emotions and diseases, which is true, you see. So all those 84,000 classes of afflictive emotions are offshoot or arise from our mind. When the mind is negative, and negative means completely just thinking about oneself and completely ignoring others, then you get tension, you get worry, so many things. But when you have dedicated yourself for others, so less worry about yourself. But you don't need to worry that if you talk about helping others, you might lose your own purposes. Don't think in that way. That is the foolish way of thinking, you see, foolish way of thinking. So therefore, protecting one's life is to abstain from those actions. Protecting doesn't mean that you see, in ancient times, if you look at now, especially if you travel in India, for example, Rajasthan especially, you will see so many forts. And even here in Kangra, there is just a Kangra fort. So the so-called mighty, powerful kings, they always have tried to protect themselves by hiding themselves in a very strong fort. And if you go to this Kangra fort, you can see it's just on the top of a mountain. Then it's surrounded by huge walls. And then in each of the walls there is a hole just to spy the enemy coming and then shoot from there, you see. Then there's a huge gate. Then on the other side there is a forest where the kings and queens and others can go and have a picnic or luxurious life, So that way they thought they are going to enjoy and live forever, but this is against the law of nature. They couldn't do. Now nothing is there. Everything has been fallen down. And even more impressive than that is if you visit the Great China Wall. It's so big, you see, running from mountain to mountain to protect the city, the country. But what is the situation today? You see, so that is not the best way of protecting oneself or one's country. The best way of protecting oneself is cultivating positive thoughts, getting good education. That's the best way of protecting your family, your society, your country. You see, so that's very important. Yesterday I attended this 5th General Conference on Tibetan education. There were around more than 200 teachers, principals were there. So there also, the education department highlighted the fact that the one thing that is very strongly emphasized is on the proper education of the Tibetan children, you see. So those things you can do. The other things, the political related and other activities, you cannot do it by yourself. You are dependent on many other people. Their support, their help. Even if you want to have a dialogue with China, it's dependent upon their responses. The Tibetans alone cannot do anything. But in terms of getting good education, we can do that, you see. So that is what was discussed there also, and which I think is absolutely true. So it is through one's own hard work, getting proper education, proper knowledge, that one can protect oneself. So protecting one's body is to abstain from those actions that would harm one's life in the future, and to rely on factors that are beneficial in this life. To rely on factors or facilities that are beneficial. See? You need to stop doing those things which would harm you in the long run. It may not be harming you today, but it will harm you if you do something wrong. It will harm you in the long run. It will harm you in the long run. Just like if you swallow a poison, you may not die immediately, but it will harm you later on. Okay? So therefore it is important to lead a way of life which is not harmful in the future also, not just for today. Okay? And to rely on factors that are beneficial in this life. Factors here means facilities that are beneficial in this life. Now there are so many things in today's world which are termed as facilities. But here it is important to really think about the meaning of facility. What is facility? Is your mobile phone? Is your internet? Is your computer? I mean, all those countless gadgets that is flooding in the market, are all these facilities? It's a very important area to think about. Now, whether they may be facilities from their side, but whether it will become a facility to you or not depends also on how you use it. So one, the so-called facilities may not be a facility. Two, it is dependent upon you whether you want to make it a facility or a hindrance. This tempted me to recite this verse by Tsongkhapa, where he says, Ming la tunjien seryan chojo le nyabar chube duji yamui. It's by Tsongkhapa, where he says, even if there is something which carries the name facility, Ming la tunjien seryan, which carries the name of the facility, but if it is distracting you towards sensual objects and contributes towards declining your spiritual practice, then that is not a facility, but rather it is an invitation sent to you by the evil forces. It's an evil, temptation. It is an invitation or temptation sent to you by the evil forces. So this is wonderful, you see. So many of these things they are very tempting. To us, they appear as facilities. But when we go after them, use them, we get stuck there. See? Now if you look carefully in one day how many hours or how much time you waste by just playing with many of these gadgets, you see. You are not anymore a small kid to just get yourself confused, seeing things which has no meaning at all. You see. So that is how you waste your time and not being able to use it as a facility, you see. So therefore we need to be very, very careful. Therefore one of the conditions for good meditation is restraining the senses, which we are going to talk later on, restraining the senses. Unless you put some restraint, unless you adopt some proper way of life or discipline, you will never get time. You will never get time to do genuine practice, and thereby you will never get proper time to bring about radical transformation. When we talk about changing, in Buddhist practice. We are talking about bringing about a radical transformation. Almost like 100% turn around, you see. So right now, that's why in one of the Mahayana Sutra, the Buddha says, Mahayana teachings are extremely difficult to practice. Mahayana teachings are extremely difficult to practice because everybody is running in this direction. Everybody. The rest of the flock, everybody is running in this direction. Mahayana teachings says, no, that is not a good place to run. Please, this is a better way. You'll get peace, you'll get happiness. Come to this direction. But then the response, everybody will just look at it. Say, no, I don't think it will be very good because most of the people are going there. You see, that's our tendency. That's our tendency. So there is almost like a kind of joke in Tibetan where they make a sarcastic remark by saying, the so-called heaven may not be so good because even the great teachers, when they go there, they go reluctantly, again and again looking back towards samsara and go slowly towards nirvana or heaven. The so-called hell may not be so terrifying because everybody is rushing there. Everybody is rushing there, you see. So this is our tendency. So doing about spiritual practice is really bringing about a radical transformation. So there you need a little bit of strength, a little bit of willpower. Otherwise you will not be able to bring about that change, you see. If you really want to change, you need to have that willpower, that inspiration, that willingness to do, not simply running where everybody is running. You need to do it a little bit differently. If you want to become different, you need to do it differently. If you want to remain as you are, okay. And then the outside force is so strong, the environment is so strong, they'll always say, oh, don't go there, don't do this, oh, this is maybe outdated, oh, this may be not relevant, come with me, there will be fun. Come with me, there will be fun. If you do this dharma practice, there's no fun, you know. People might get that kind of, they get that kind of tendency. So therefore, once you, that's why I said at least for some time you should spend time, read this text, think about, then that will inspire you, that will, at least you will be able to see it is really important. So that inspiration will help you again and again keep in touch with good teachers, keep in touch with good dharma books, and then gradually it will become your habit. That's important, especially in the beginning. So therefore, don't postpone your spiritual practice. Don't postpone your spiritual practice. Don't come with lame excuses by saying, I have no time, I'm very busy. Busy about what? As I asked you before, busy about what? It's not important that you are busy, but the question is, what are you busy about? What are you busy about? So therefore, even in the case of young, children like you, in the morning after you get up, just be quiet and sit down, at least for 5 minutes meditation. What is the meaning of human life? I mean, if you don't think, it will go like as it always went. If you think, right in the morning, get up, sit down, think a little bit, I'm really lucky, I'm still alive. You see, don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted that you will be alive again and again all the time. Don't take it for granted. It's a rare opportunity. So be happy that I'm alive again. And don't just come with a sad-looking face right in the morning, thinking about all the complaints, insufficiencies. Don't do that. Just sit down and feel happy. I'm really lucky. I'm a human being. Not a cow, not a dog, not an insect. I'm really lucky. Having thought that you are lucky, you need to think why you are lucky, because you have this special potential. And you will really become lucky only if you use this potential, the human thinking power, the human intelligence, in the right direction, in the right way. So therefore make a promise right in the morning, okay, at least today, whether you are going to school, going to work, you should make a promise that today I will try my best to lead a meaningful life. A meaningful life, which means a beneficial life. A life where you make others happy, do not create suffering, make their promise. And then go to school, go to your work, whatever you are doing, do that. And then if possible, again and again remember about your promise. And then at the end of the day, when you are about to sleep, don't just sleep by after having seen a horror movie, or or disturbing movie. You see, violence, sex, those kind of disturbing movie. Instead, you again sit down quietly and calmly, think a little bit about, reflect a little bit about how you spent your life. Did you fulfill the promise that you made in the morning? Do a little bit of review, and if you find wrongdoings, then regret that this was not good. Based on your own experience, you can find out that it was not good because it made others unhappy. How much that other person become unhappy because of your reaction. And then you will also find that you also did not enjoy harming others. So okay, anyway, that was what has happened. So make a promise that from tomorrow I will improve. So that's the way. That is the way how you do your practice 24 hours. And then of course when you go to sleep, then just before going to sleep, having done the review of what you have done in the day, then remember, if you are Buddhist, then remember Buddha, Avalokiteshvara, His Holiness Dalai Lama, Manjushri, Buddha, whatever. Remember that. And now many of us, later on if you are able to somehow get hold of this text, the whole text, there's such a detailed explanation here, saying that even if you are able to remember the names of these great teachers, it purifies many of your negative deeds, wrongdoings. Then going around the stupa, you see. And that's why I have specially constructed these small 8 stupas, not as a showpiece, you see, because I've read this in the text, that that's such a wonderful way of collecting merit. And you can imagine how so many people see this, so many people go around it, you see. It's a reminder. So that's the thing. So think something good, something positive. Then even when you are sleeping, there's every likelihood that in the dream also you will meet the Buddha. It's possible, you see. Just before sleeping, if you look carefully about some of the holy statues, images of the Buddha, or His Holiness the Dalai Lama, or whatever, then do whatever prayer you want to do in front of them, do 3-4 prostrations, and then go to sleep. Your sleep will be so peaceful. It is a fact. I'm not making it up. It's a fact. So in this way you can do your practice for 24 hours, even when you are sleeping. And then sometimes, I used to do before, not so much these days, becoming bad now. When I was studying in the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics, I used to read this kind of verses, and just before sleeping, to memorize those verses. And then it happens that even in the night, you just wake up thinking about that verse, you see. Then you are not able to remember, what was that next verse? You are not able to remember. Then you even put on the light and see, so you are so interested. Then try to memorize it a little bit again, then go to sleep. And then sometimes, even some of the meaning, interestingly, is being told sometimes. But again, next morning you may not be able to remember it. But those things happens, you see. And that's a very good way, because just before sleeping, if you think about these good things, good practices, and then go to sleep, you are leaving an imprint on your subtle consciousness, which is going to be activated when you're sleeping, because when you sleep, you withdraw all your grosser consciousnesses, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, they all sleep with you. They are withdrawn. And when this grosser consciousness is withdrawn, the subtle consciousness get activated. So therefore, whatever you experience during that subtle consciousness, it's very effective. It's very effective. So that's the way. So as I recited this verse from 37 Bodhisattva practices, that you should always watch yourself. Watch yourself. one of the Kadamba teacher, he says, when you are among a crowd, watch your mouth. When you are alone in somebody's house, watch your hand. Otherwise you might just, maybe not stealing, but you might just out of curiosity take something, then it might fall from your hand. It's very embarrassing, So things like that. When you are alone in somebody's house, watch your hand. Always watch your mind. Whether you are alone or in a crowd or whatever, always watch your mind. Because the mind is the one which tells what to do physically, what to do verbally. So all these Buddhist practices are really nothing but watching your mind. If you watch your mind properly, do those things which does not harm others and which instead help others, you are doing the practice of morality, you are doing patience, you are making concentration, all practices are there. Therefore, Buddha in one of his sutra where he says, if you have one practice in the palm of your hand, you have all the practices in the palm of your hand. And what is that practice? Compassion, great compassion. That means if you have this mind thinking, how nice if I'm able to remove the sufferings of all sentient beings, if you genuinely have that kind of thinking, not just talking, if you, from the depth of your mind, if you have this feeling, how nice if I'm able to remove the sufferings of all the sentient beings, how nice if I'm able to help them, if that concern, that sense of responsibility is there within you, all your activities will become wonderful spiritual practices. Therefore, many of the Kadamba masters, they say, I have one servant. I mean, in the form of an example, they say, I have one servant, one attendant, and that attendant is a very efficient attendant. He does all the work of cooking, of cleaning the house, whatever, So meaning that if you have one of these wonderful practices like compassion, you have all other practices. They will all come there. So, therefore, this is the way you protect yourself. This means to uphold the Dharma even at the cost of one's body, you see? Even at the cost of one's body and life, as is explained in the Arya Gagan Ganj Sutra. And to give up befriending those who would become a hindrance to upholding the Dharma, as is explained in the Sadam Pundarik Sutra. Many people have sacrificed their life for protecting the Dharma. It's still happening in Tibet. More than 124 people self-immolated themselves, primarily to have His Holiness back, to preserve Tibetan culture and religion, you see. So there are people who have so much devotion, so much... because this Buddhist practice, Dharma teaching, is a source of sustenance and well-being of so many people. We are not just saying it. In the past, how many millions of people have benefited by such a practice? In the future also it is going to benefit billions of people. And today, even in the most developed countries like America, many countries in Europe, Buddhism is one of the fastest growing religion today. I'm not saying it. You just log on to different websites, you will see that, you see. Fastest growing religion. And thereby I'm not saying Buddhism is best, but what I'm saying is Buddhism is not just a religion in the ordinary sense of the term, but it is a science of life. It is a science of mind. It's a way of life. It's a philosophy of life. And therefore, people want to have a happy, harmonious life. And therefore, they are interested how to lead a happy, harmonious life. So many scores and dozens of books have been written now under different titles, but they have all borrowed so heavily from the Buddhist teachings, you see. They are making it a little bit more catchy and more attractive, you see. So that means it's helping. Many of these Buddhist ideas are now used in psychotherapy, you see. So therefore, what I'm saying is it's relevant, it is useful. Therefore, Tibetans must preserve it. And those who are interested must follow it, must understand it, must practice it. And today we are living in a time where just blind faith is not going to survive, it's not going to help us. Okay? In one of these texts, Arya Gagan Kanji Sutra, as is named here, in the end of one of this quotation it says, we must preserve this precious teaching, especially during the time of degeneration, during bad times. So, in order to benefit other sentient beings, you should even be able to sacrifice your body, your life, and through that process you should uphold this sublime teaching. And then there is another quotation from this, which is also named here, Sadam Pundarik Sutra, White Lotus Sutra. In that White Lotus Sutra, there are many quotations, but in one quotation it says, it cites a quotation from the Wisdom Perfection Sutra by saying that we need to be extra careful when we undertake such spiritual practices, because when you engage in such spiritual practices, it is also said that the evil forces also will be there to disturb you, to obstruct you, to hinder you. You see? Now, evil forces does not necessarily mean that somebody will, with long horns and bearing fangs, will appear and disturb you. But they can come in any form, as I said earlier, in the guise of a friend, in the guise of a relative. In so many forms they can come and obstruct your practice. So we need to realize that also. So it is said that sometimes even if you get a dream of seeing the Buddha, sometimes it may not be necessarily a good thing sometimes. It may be also an obstruction from the evil force. And then he gives an example by saying, for example, the fact that sometimes you are interested in Dharma, but you don't find a good teacher. Sometimes there is a good teacher, but nobody is interested to listen. And in this text, it said this is also a kind of act of evil force. Evil force not necessarily mean an external evil force, but it could refer to your internal afflictive emotions also. So in short, when we talk about the activity of the evil force, it basically means not engaging in virtuous practices and engaging in destructive practices. So if you engage in that, then you are really leading the life of an evil force. Evil force. So here, I mean, there is many pages describing this 2 lines. But here what we need to remember is one of the fundamental Buddhist practices is practicing the 10 virtuous qualities and abstaining from the 10 non-virtuous practices. You all know that 10 virtuous practices: physically, not killing, not stealing, not engaging in adultery, sexual misconduct, physically. So not engaging in these 3 is a virtuous practice of the body, physically. If you engage in these 3, then these are 3 physical non-virtues. So physically 3. Then verbally, not lying, not telling lie. Then not engaging in divisive talk. Divisive talk means creating disharmony between friends, between relatives, between good people, you see. And some people by nature, they are very, very jealous, pretending that I'm so good to you, then say something, oh, you be careful, don't go with this girl, that boy, then, in that way you create disharmony, that's divisive talk. Then harsh speech, that means, as I said earlier, speak less. And even when you speak, as Nagarjuna recommends in his letter to the friend, your speech, if possible, should be like a honey. If not, at least be like a flower, but not like a filth. Okay? Because the speech, it's very disruptive. There is an English proverb which says that the tongue which is few inches long, if that tongue few inches long uses a harsh speech, can kill a person 7 foot tall. You see? There's an English proverb. And there's a Tibetan saying also, there's also a Tibetan saying which says, Tamla nongar meja meaning tumbur. That means the speech itself does not have the sharpness like that of a blade, but it can chop other people's heart into pieces. You can make their life miserable. His human mind is very sensitive, very sensitive. If you bully, if you discourage others, many of the people, when their mind is not strong, they feel miserable, they feel very sad. They feel extremely discouraged. And some people even go to the extent that now all people are treating like this to me, so my living this life is of no meaning. So people even commit suicide, you see. Because there is no atmosphere in the society which helps them or encourages them, So they completely experience this hopelessness. So therefore, good speech, like honey or flower, say something that would bring smile on the faces of others, something that would cheer up others, you see. So if that warmth is there, then even in Dharamsala, when the climate is a little bit cold, still the warmth will be there, you see. The proper circulation of blood takes place by laughing, by smiling, ha, he, But if that is not there, the weather is also cold, people also cold, You can see. This is very, very important to make other people's life cheerful, encourage them, give them hope. Give them hope. So, telling lie, not telling lie, not engaging in divisive talk, not using harsh speech, and not engaging in idle chatter, gossiping, ngarkhil. Gossiping itself may not be a negative emotion, but it leads to committing many negative emotions, and it wastes lots of your time. There's so many things you can talk about, especially about those meaningless things. There are so many things to talk about. He went up, he went down, this went this. I mean, this is a very interesting thing that I see when I go to see my relatives in the Tibetan settlement, you see. All they talk about is who has come, who has gone, who has married to whom, Oh, that person came from America, that person came from army, he spent there for 10 days. They know all the story because there's no other news in the Tibetan settlement, So in a way it is interesting, it's a friendly chat, but if you spend too much of your time talking just about these things, it really is not good. And sometimes if you don't be careful while heedlessly gossiping, you may be harming somebody. I've seen this myself a few times. Among a gathering of few people, you are talking highly about somebody and talking bad thing about people from some area, some country, things like that. Then it happens somebody is from that area, that country is sitting there, you see. It's a very embarrassing situation, So, then mentally, 3. Covetousness, that means coveting. How nice, my neighbor has bought a brand new car. How nice if I also have one like that. Napsim. And then next is harmful intention, to wish to harm others. Of course, that is one of the worst of all the negative emotions. And then wrong view. Wrong view. The wrong view is source of all other negative emotions in a way. Because if you don't have the right understanding, if you follow the wrong teacher, if you follow the wrong teaching, if you follow the wrong friend, then all your positive qualities will decline. As I already cited this verse from 37 Bodhisattva practices. So it's important to really have access to good teacher, reliable teaching. Sometimes I jokingly tell my Tibetan friends that generally speaking, majority of the Tibetans may not know much about Dharma, so it's more or less a kind of little bit of blind faith. But we thank God we are lucky. The religion towards which we have a kind of blind faith turned out to be a reliable religion. So imagine if you follow a wrong system, wrong religion, then it can be very, very destructive. Wrong ideology, wrong philosophy, wrong teaching. So therefore, now who can prove what is right, what is wrong? That's a question that comes up again and again. So there you need to use your common sense. You need to use your common sense. At the time of the Buddha, one day some of the villagers came to see the Buddha and said that in our village many teachers come. They give different teachings. One teacher comes and gives a teaching and says this is the best teaching, this is the shortcut to enlightenment or whatever, so follow this. After a few days another teacher comes and gives a different teaching and says this is the best teaching, this is the reliable teaching, this is the shortcut to enlightenment, follow this. So which one we should follow? We are confused which one we should follow. So there the Buddha answered by saying, use your common sense. You can just listen to other people, but use your common sense. Think carefully. Okay? So it's important to use your common sense. Don't in Tibetan we say, Natha mil mashor vagyo. That means don't let your nose, do not let other people lead you by your nose. So we need to, in the Tibetan system of education, we also need a proper way of education where people are able to think for themselves. Now gradually most of the people are copying each other. You see, they are copying somebody, some clever people invent something, then everybody is copying that without thinking at all. Because thinking is laborious. Thinking needs effort. So in this way we don't think. And because we don't think, we never use our intelligence. And now some of the thinkers, they even say that what is being taught in a school, in the university, destroys your intelligence, destroys your thinking. Because intelligence is a kind of inborn quality. Intelligence is there with us so that we are able to deal with problems that we face in our life. Even the birds, they have some kind of intelligence. Animals, they have some kind of intelligence. Trees also have some kind of intelligence, in a sense. So it is that kind of capacity of intelligence that they are able to at least make some move and try their way to solve that problem. So when we get education in a school, in a university, we are supposed to get that process of knowledge by which we are able to think by ourselves to deal with a particular situation, particular problem, when the problem confronts you. But that is not being taught. What is being taught in the school and universities? Just to memorize something. Just memorize something and then you vomit it out during the examination. Right, the same thing that you have memorized. And then after school finishes, nothing. Nothing is there. There's no education. The great thinkers like Albert Einstein, he was very critical about the teachers of his time. He even commented by saying, teachers of today are destroying the life of the children. Because they always try to find out what the children do not know. Ask a question which they do not know. And then they say, you do not know even this one. You stupid student. they never try to see what is the potential of that student. Where is the talent of that student? How can you help bring forth that potential, that talent? And how can you help shine that out? That is not there. So therefore, it is important for all of us, and especially the younger generations, that you should be able to think by yourself, do something. When you confront a difficult situation, don't just go to read a book. That's what we do these days. If you are unable to tackle a problem with a machine or something, immediately there is a guidebook there, you see. Press this, press this. And I mean, you're a monkey now. Press this, it worked out, as if you are very clever, but you are just reading, You never used your intelligence, you see. So it's important, when there is a problem, just through your own effort, try to solve that problem, you see. That is how the good scientists do. How the good scientists do. So if you lead that way of life, then all of us can become great men and great women with new discoveries, new ideas, new ways of solving problems. All of us can come up with that, you see. Once I was reading a book on physics, and right in the beginning, the writer says, many people think physics is very difficult, but he says, no, physics is very easy. All you need to do is observe. All you need to do is observe and find things out by yourself. For example, when it is raining, everybody says, oh, okay, raining, and nobody thinks about how the rain comes down. When the hail comes down, why it is coming down? The hails are round, Who made it round? How it became round, There's so many questions. So if you just ask this question and pursue that question to some degree, to some length, with that one observation, you have discovered something new. You've really found something new. The real answer you have found by yourself. So then you will be able to share that knowledge very convincingly to others. Because you are not just citing a quotation, but you found that by yourself. So those kind of awakening, and that's what exactly Buddha did. When we talk about the Four Noble Truths, we are just saying, oh, people have suffering. Sufferings have cause. What are the causes? He went out. What are the causes? Afflictive emotions. All this he found out. And he highlighted all these things. And that contributed towards well-being and happiness of so many of us. Okay? So that is the thing. Upholding the Dharma as is explained in the Saddam Pundarak Sutra. So I was citing primarily from the Saddam Pundarak Sutra. Then, in tune with the Bodhisattva practices, when you see somebody doing something good, you should always encourage that person to do that even better. Never directly or indirectly say something which would discourage the practice of that person, the good life that person is leading. Because sometimes it happens if you say, oh, that lady is very religious, she is doing practice, then instead of joining that and supporting that, you might say, oh, she may be doing that practice, but, you see, that's what we end up saying, she may be doing that practice, but. You see, again, you do not join the other person, appreciating what she is doing, but you want to again drag her down. But this is not the complete story. I know the other stories, the bad part. See? So that's not the Bodhisattva way of life. That's not the Bodhisattva way of life. So when somebody has no reason to regret something, then don't let them regret. Encourage them. And somebody has entered into Mahayana practice, encourage them, support them. Wonderful, you're lucky. Say those good things. Wow. You see? The football players, generally speaking, they support each other. So just like these players, that's why in Buddhism we talk highly about Vajra brothers and sisters. Especially when you receive a tantric teaching, tantric initiation together, then we say, oh, you need to recognize all of this as your Vajra brothers and Vajra sisters. You see. So the concept is there, but we are not practicing, you see. So when we see similar, like-minded practitioners, fellows coming together, we should all be happy. Oh, these are good people coming together, We are in the same line, traveling in the same direction, Feel happy and support, encourage each other. That's the right thing. And when you deal with other people, never deal with other people with deceit, cunningness, and lack of sense of responsibility. There are other 4 qualities that is explained here, where it says if you possess these 4 practices, then in all of your lives, as and when you are born, you will be able to actualize the bodhicitta. And you will not, meanwhile, forget the bodhicitta until you become a Buddha. What are the 4 practices? You should continue to praise the greatness of the Bodhisattva Yana practice, even if it is at the cost of your life. You do not give it up, continue to praise it. And even while you are laughing and smile, do not deny great the Bodhisattva practices, but rather talk highly about the Bodhisattva practice. And when you see sentient beings whose minds are not matured, you should develop great compassion and help them find the way of the Bodhisattva, find the Mahayana path. And that is in fact the best gift you can ever give. It's not a little bit of money that you give, a little bit of clothes that you give. These are okay, but they are not the best gift. The best gift is to help somebody, gain access to such teachings. For example, when he saw the Dalai Lama is teaching, then he should, he's giving teaching, wonderful, we must go, those kind of support, encouragement. Okay? So that's important. And never ever obstruct anybody who is giving the gift of Dharma teaching. Whether you are in a city or in a town, you should represent yourself as a practitioner of the Bodhisattva Yana and help others come within that fold of the practice. And then out of these many harms that we have discussed, one of the harm is lack of joy towards these precious teachings. If you have no joy, that's also a harm. If you have no appreciation, no joy in the teaching, that's also a harm that you are doing to yourself. So there are so many. And then having no faith in the teaching is a harm that you do to yourself. And when you have an opportunity to serve others, if you do not serve others, there is also harm that you do to yourself. Then again, another important thing is when you claim yourself as a practitioner of the Mahayana teaching, while you profess yourself as a practitioner of the Mahayana teaching, if you look down upon the Theravada teaching or Hinayana teaching, there is also a big harm. That is against the Bodhisattva vows. For example, if you say, you are doing this Theravada practice or Hinayana practice, that's not good for you. It's talking about benefiting just few sentient beings. You must come to the fold of Mahayana practice. If you in this way look down upon the same teaching that's taught by Buddha, the Theravada teaching or Hinayana teaching, that's a grave mistake. It's a grave mistake. Because all these teachings are taught by the same Buddha and in a skillful way. Then it goes on talking about reducing the three poisons: attachment, anger, and ignorance, especially attachment to one's body, by properly analyzing the nature of one's body, why there is no reason to develop so much attachment to your body. Okay, then we read the translation of this text. Giving up fruitless activities can be achieved through mindfulness. Giving up fruitless activities can be achieved through mindfulness. How to give up things that are harmful in this life? By what means do we achieve all this? A question is asked by saying, by what means do we achieve all this? This is answered by saying, by giving up fruitless activities. What are the fruitless activities? And what are the fruitful activities? All those activities that are directly or indirectly beneficial to others, they are fruitful activities. All those activities that do not benefit and help others, they are fruitless activities. From the Bodhisattvayana point of view, even if you stretch your hand, if it's not benefiting others, it's a fruitless activity. Okay? So the Bodhisattvas, their promise, their prayer is so strong. For example, in the case of the Buddha, it is said that the Buddha breathes, even his breathing is for the benefit of other sentient beings. I mean, it may be not so easy for us to understand it, but what the meaning that is being explained here is that whatever you do it with a purpose, do it mindfully, and by doing that it can be beneficial to others. It can be beneficial to others. With the same eye, the same two eyes. Of course you have to look. Except in the night you have to keep these eyes open, and that's why you're looking, you see. So when you look, it is important not only look, but see. The difficulty is we are looking but not seeing. If you want to understand Dharma, if you understand others, don't just look but see. Don't just look but see. Don't just hear but listen. These are different. Hearing and listening different. Looking and seeing different. You may have been looking for a long, long time, but you may not have been seeing anything. Looking but not seeing. Like if you look at these plants and flowers that we have here, we have been looking to this for a long time, but we have not been seeing, so we don't know what these flowers are, what these plants are, you see. So as one of the Bodhisattva teaching says that even when you look at the sentient beings with your eye, look towards them with loving kindness. Look towards them with loving kindness, not with attachment, not with anger, not with jealousy. But in most of the cases, we might be looking to somebody out of hatred or anger or disliking or disdain or in many cases attachment, how beautiful this girl is, how handsome this man is, So that is not very good. I mean, it comes naturally to you in many cases, unfortunately. Just like seeing a flower, it may come. But then at the same time, it's important to let your mind to know that this is not proper to develop these negative emotions. So look towards them with loving kindness. With the realization that they are all here in front of me. They all want happiness. They all do not want suffering. But still they have suffering. Still they have problems. They all want happiness, but still there is a short supply of happiness, of peace. So seeing this, as I had given you the example other day, while I was explaining the practice of giving, you see, if you have this one understanding of how everybody in one way or the other is submerged in difficulties and problems, then this will really help you remove your attachment, your anger, your hatred. Just like the example that I gave earlier. If somebody is dying here and lying in a pool of blood, then will you develop hatred to that person? Most probably not. Much less chance. You see, it's not worth developing hatred. It's not worth developing hatred because he's dying. And also not worth developing attachment. And what is relevant at such a situation is developing genuine love, genuine compassion. You see. So similarly, just like this person lying in a pool of blood, similarly, if you are able to see properly, however nice people may be looking at the surface level, but deep down everybody has some struggle, some conflict, some problem, some difficulty. And all of us are under the dictates of afflictive emotions. We are slave to the afflictive emotions. Once you understand this, it will definitely help you to at least purify your attitude towards these people. You see, that's extremely important. So these points you need to think by coming with this example. I'm making it up. This example, I thought about it and came up with this example. You see, and that's why His Holiness the Dalai Lama says that we also talk about compassion. But he says that the compassion that we are talking about is very superficial. Because the definition of compassion says, how nice if all sentient beings are without suffering. Now if your development of compassion is genuine, then you should really have a very good understanding of sufferings of other sentient beings. Do we have that? Forget about other people's suffering. You do not have a clear understanding of your sufferings also. Especially the sufferings that you suffer due to afflictive emotions. You have invited these afflictive emotions within yourself and agreed to stay in touch with the afflictive emotions. My anger, so okay, stay with me. My jealousy, okay, come with me. My attachment, okay, come with me. So you are in league with these afflictive emotions. Clearly showing that you have no understanding, no in-depth understanding of how much you are suffering by these afflictive emotions. So how will you understand sufferings of other sentient beings? Therefore, in Buddhism, we talk about renunciation. That's the first step, renunciation. Renunciation means seeing the limitations of this cycle of existence. Once you see the limitations of this cycle of existence, how much we are tormented and afflicted by these negative emotions, once you have a clear understanding of that, then there is a more likelihood, more possibility for you to develop that genuine compassion towards others when they suffer. But if you don't have any personal taste of how much you are tormented by these afflictive emotions, we can talk about compassion, but there will be no genuine kind of sincerity or genuine understanding there. So it takes time. It takes time. So we need meditation. Not just talking, meditation. Think for yourself. I have shown you the path to Nirvana. Nirvana is up to you. That's what the Buddha said. He never said, I have shown you the path to you and I also help you. I will also remove your problem. He never said that. I will show the path to you, Nirvana is up to you. I am your teacher, you have to act. I am your teacher, you have to act. That's the reason. That is the reason why we need to do all this spiritual practice, why we need to make effort. There's nobody who can remove all your problems, sufferings in the true sense of the term. So therefore, the best way to help yourself, benefit yourself, to bring long-lasting peace and happiness is to stop all these fruitless activities. To stop all this chasing the rainbow. To stop all this chasing the rainbow. The rainbow looks beautiful from a distance, but if you go closer to the rainbow and try to catch hold of it, will you be able to catch hold of it? Is there any story of somebody who went to catch the rainbow and caught the rainbow and came back with the rainbow? No. So the seemingly superficial, glamorous attractions after which we run is like the rainbow. Is the rainbow. Nguchu Thogme Sabo in his 37 Bodhisattva practices, he says, Tuna Dembra Songwe Atang Chi. Tishir Mitun Kiantan Tibes Tuverteva Jasila, Tuna Dembra Songwe Atang Chi. He's basically saying, are you not tired? Are you not tired of this running? After this mirage, after this rainbow. And he says, you are tired, you are terribly tired. You are tired because you have misperceived the mistaken state as the truth. Because you have misperceived what is wrong as true. You misperceived what is wrong as true, and you misperceived what is wrong as the source of happiness. I'll get married, I will be happier. Very, very happy. So it is in almost in most of the countries, it's now almost a fashion or tradition that you must marry. You must marry. It's very important in life. Well, I'm not saying anything against that. But all I'm saying is to think that you will be very, very happy after marriage. To think that you will be very happy after getting that new building, new house, shifting to a new house. And in Singapore, when I was in Singapore the year before, I was reading newspaper, that clipping I still have in my room. They did a research where they tried to analyze whether getting married, having a house, and having certain level amount of money. If these 3-4 things, people normally think if I get these 3-4 things, I'm okay, I'm happy. So they did a research on that, whether with those people who have achieved all these 3, and whether they're happier or not. And it's found that they are not happier. And then they will ask for something else, you see. What next, you see. So that made us run all the time. That made us busy all the time. So while I'm not against these things, all I'm saying is, if you see these things as the real source for reliable, long-lasting peace and happiness, then it is not. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That is important because we have all agreed. These days when I give a talk, I first seek the agreement of the people. Do you want happiness? Yes, sir. Do you want happiness for 10 days? No, sir. How long you want? As long as possible. So we agree on that right in the beginning. And next time I'll make them sign the document. Having signed the document, everybody is saying, if it is possible to have that long-lasting happiness, we all want. Okay, now you said that, you signed the agreement. So now how are you going to get that long-lasting, reliable happiness? So there, the only source for that reliable, long-lasting happiness and peace is your positive mental outlook, your cultivation of positive emotions, your removal of negative emotions. There's no other solution whatsoever. However clever you are, and I can promise you that, however clever you may be, without employing your mind and developing the correct attitude, you will never get that long-lasting, reliable happiness. Where there are interesting people in the world, some people might say, "Oh, I don't have any of this, but I'm very, very, very happy." They might say that. They might say that, but you have to watch. You have to watch. So that is the truth, bitter truth. So therefore, since we want that most reliable, long-lasting peace and happiness, it is extremely important to work with our mind to get that reliable, long-lasting peace and happiness. Because your mind goes with you all the time wherever you go. In this life, in the future lives, wherever you go, your mind will be there. So if your mind is educated, if your mind is loving, if your mind is compassionate, your mind is full of patience, full of wisdom, wherever you go, in this life, in the future lives, wherever you go, you will be fine, you will be happy, you will be at peace. That's what the Buddhist teaching is saying. If you don't have these things, you may have many, many friends, especially when you are flourishing, you get many, many friends, you see. That itself is an indication, you see. When you are flourishing, when you are successful, when you have name, you have power, you have money, you get many false friends. When your purse is jingling with money, you get many friends. But when you are declining, or in deep trouble, friends are far and wide. Nobody will pick up your telephone call. You see, this is the truth. That's the truth. So under such a situation, who is going to help you? So right from the beginning, we need to cultivate a way of life, way of thinking, that you will be able to take care of yourself in all difficult situations. Let me give you some example to how it helps yourself. I know one teacher. I have several examples, but I can give you one example of a great teacher. He used to be the ex-abbot of Depong Loseleng Monastery. He got cancer. Okay? So he was in America for a medical treatment because he was suffering from cancer. He's a great scholar and he has many Western students also. And Professor Jeffrey Hopkins was also one of his students. So when His Holiness the Dalai Lama went to America, this scholar came to see His Holiness. And His Holiness did some probably divination, I don't know, but His Holiness suggested that you come back to India for the treatment. And then some of his students, I heard that some of them even wept and even requested His Holiness, please His Holiness, don't say this. Because in India there's not much good treatment. The treatment is much better in America, in the West. So let him do his treatment there. Because the doctors there, they had said that he has only, even with the treatment, he will live only 3 months. But then this scholar, because he has so much faith in His Holiness, he said, hey, shut up, what you know? This is what His Holiness said, I listened to him. He came back, did his treatment, also did a surgery. So he in fact lived here in Dharamsala for many months, not just 3, for many months. Then after that he also went to Delhi, did an operation, it was successful. He lived more than 1 year in Dharamsala. Then after that he said, no, I don't feel like staying here, I'm just wasting my time, I want to go back to monastery and teach. He went there, I don't know how long, he lived there also for a much longer time, you see. So what I'm saying is, like, he knew fully well this is suffering from cancer, his stomach has been chopped off, part of his stomach has been chopped off. But he's always smiling and no sign of depression or fear, And in fact, one day I was going for a short walk with him, he said, oh, it is very easy to talk about impermanence, but when impermanence seizes you, it is not easy, Meaning that he is meditating on that, you see. So there are so many examples of such kind. When you have the right mental attitude, fear will be gone, suffering will be gone, or at least will be reduced, you see. And when you don't have this process of proper way of thinking, then when you get the slightest difficulty, slightest problem, you get completely shattered. Oh my goodness, what should I do? You get completely shattered. So therefore, you can easily see how relevant these teachings are, how good these teachings are. So these teachings are your most reliable teacher, most reliable friend. See? Will never deceive you if you practice these things. Never. They will never become excess baggage. And they will be with you wherever you go. That's why these teachings are so important. So we are not just talking in the hawa mein hum baat nahi kar rahe. We are not just talking in empty space or whatever. We are not talking meaningless things. So it's important to see these things. Don't measure everything in terms of material gain. That's the problem. Everybody measures the usefulness of something in terms of material gain. You see. So you get your physical health, you get your mental health. So what else you need from these spiritual practices? So this is very powerful. By what means do we achieve all this? By giving up fruitless activities. Fruitless activities. Up till now we may have been engaging in so many fruitless activities. We are running everywhere, running hither and thither. Let us rewind our life history and look back the past life. How many years we spent, 30, 40 years, whatever, depending upon our age. And replay it and see how fruitful the life that you spent already. So now you need to say, okay, I spent so many years in a fruitless way, now I should make my life fruitful. Fruitful means making everybody happy. Making everybody happy doesn't mean that you go everybody and make a joke and smile and just play monkey, No, I'm not talking about that. Making everybody happy means helping them think properly. Helping them help themselves so that they are able to help themselves. So that your presence there among other sentient beings does not become a disturbance, an obstruction. It becomes a facility, it becomes a resource. So if you do that, everybody will naturally be happy with you, everybody will appreciate you, and in turn you will be happy, you will flourish. There was a not calculated game, but the end product is that. You see, that's the side effect. You don't have to do something expecting something. You see, when you do something expecting something, that is wrong. As I said, you eat food, never saying thank you to yourself. Okay? Because this is something that must be done, you do it. So similarly, helping others is just like you are consuming food. It's something that must be done. Because that is the source of harmony, long-term peace and happiness. By giving up fruitless activities. One can avoid all the harms mentioned above by giving up activities which are not beneficial to others. So fruitless activities are those activities which are not beneficial to others. The process of giving up such activities, now the question is, yes, it is important to give up activities which are not beneficial to others, but saying is easy, doing is difficult. I am so habituated with doing this fruitless activities. I am so much into doing these fruitless activities that I cannot give it up easily. So how can I do it? How can I give up those fruitless activities? The processes of giving up such fruitless activities are mentioned in the Chandra Pradeep Sutra, Dasa Dharma Sutra, If you want to read in length, they're all there. But in short, that also is achieved through mindfulness. Mindfulness comes through absolute veneration. Veneration is the quality of peace alone. Knowing this, cultivate it with perseverance. So that means it is basically talking about the need to practice the three trainings: training of morality, training of concentration, and training of wisdom. So how will you be able to stop doing these fruitless activities? You will be able to stop these fruitless activities if you observe morality, if you engage in concentration, if you engage in the practice of wisdom. So therefore he is saying that also is achieved through mindfulness. That means mindfulness or conscientiousness, these two are part of the practice of morality. So he is talking about morality, mindfulness. That is also achieved through mindfulness. That means remembering the good things that must be done, letting your mind stay on the object, positive activities that must be practiced, and watching yourself, what you are talking, where are you going, to observe yourself, mindfulness and conscientiousness. So, and how would you develop that mindfulness? Mindfulness comes through absolute veneration. That mindfulness will come only when you have genuine respect to the practices that you are to do. There should be appreciation. That means there should be appreciation to the importance of morality, practice of all these virtuous qualities. So there must be absolute respect, absolute veneration. Just like a football player, because he is so much into that game, day and night he thinks about it, prepares about it, dreams about it. There is absolute kind of appreciation towards that game, and he does well in that. So similarly, in terms of our practice also, you will be able to have this mindfulness if you have genuine appreciation and respect to these practices. That's the tricky thing. And we are unable to do it, clearly showing that we have not much interest. So interest must be cultivated. And how would you cultivate that interest? By knowing the importance of such practice, by understanding the importance of such practice. Then you will do it. And the importance of those practices can be known by practicing, by living, not just talking. So when you practice, when you live, for example, if you spend even, let us say, 1 hour, spend 1 hour just by yourself, thinking about some of these things, then you will get some flavor. Some flavor. But if you just attend the teaching in the classroom, then finish it all, it will be difficult to test it. So you have quite time. Stay alone, reflect, think, meditate. Then you will feel the test. And that from there will develop veneration, respect to the teaching. And from there will come the mindfulness, that you will remember the teaching. Mindfulness comes through absolute veneration. And the veneration or respect to the teaching will be able to come. See, veneration is the quality of peace alone. And how would you develop that veneration and respect the teaching? You will be able to develop that respect and veneration to the teaching if you first of all learn to live alone and be in peace with yourself. That means doing the karma abiding practice, one-pointed meditation. If you stay alone and stay away from the hustle and bustle of life, stay away from the crowd. Physically you are surrounded by a crowd of people. Mentally your mind is crowded by afflictive emotions. And this maddening crowd of people, of negative emotions, confuses you. This maddening crowd, people outside of you, afflictive emotions within you, they are confusing you, they are destroying your life. They are creating disharmony. So with this realization, you should isolate yourself. Therefore, the great meditators, they move high into the mountains. The birds, animals, even some of the ferocious animals, if you be a little bit careful about that, they will not disturb your spiritual practice. The dear human brothers and sisters does a lot of disturbance, you see. So therefore the first lesson is you need to learn to test peace by staying alone in isolation. Think what is meaning of human life. What is it that brings genuine peace and happiness? Think about those things. Veneration is the quality of peace alone. Peace alone. He did not say veneration is the quality of crowd. Veneration is the quality of peace alone. So do your one-pointed meditation. So in order to do that one-pointed meditation, you need to restrain the senses. Restrain the senses. Because your mind, when it is not trained, it tends to run after, or it tends to chases the dictates of the five senses. The eye goes to somebody, the mind goes there. Ear goes somebody, mind goes there. So the mind becomes a slave to the dictates of the senses. So the purpose of practice is that the mind should be able to control the senses, restrain the senses, and make sure that these senses are not running to those sensual objects which is disturbing and which is creating disharmony and distraction. So restraining. So that's why it's important to sit in an isolated place. That's why in Buddhism we talk about physical isolation and mental isolation. Physical isolation. When you do such a practice, then you will be able to see the real peace. The real peace. The kind of peace that you will get through your own personal reflection cannot be matched by any other peace that you get from gifts by some other people or friendship with some people. You will never be able to get such a peace. That peace is genuine peace. Genuine peace. When you're able to, when you know how to live with your mind. Mind is like a space. There's no restriction. It is not suffocating. But when you confine yourself more with this physical body, then you get all the problems. It's suffocating, it's restricting, see. You're only thinking about what is confining. But when you think about the mind, although you are going inside, but the nature of the mind is such that it is compared to the nature of the shunyata. It is compared to the nature of the space. Space gives you the opportunity to fly. Space gives you freedom. That's why we also talk about the need to understand shunyata, because it gives you freedom. Then you get freedom. Inside it's all yours. No need to get any permission to do any kind of spiritual construction. It's all yours. So do all those spiritual constructions. So that is what is being taught in Buddhism. Once you do these internal spiritual constructions, then you will be able to achieve that highest happiness for yourself and for others. So veneration is the quality of peace alone. Knowing thus, cultivate it with perseverance. Knowing thus, cultivate it with perseverance. Once you knew about the importance of such one-pointed meditation which brings such peace, then you need to work hard, perseverance. This is what he is saying. Knowing thus, cultivate it with perseverance, with work hard. Right now your mind is strongly entrenched in negative emotions, so it is very difficult to take it out from that. So it needs hard work. But the good news is that unlike training of the body, when you train your mind, it becomes much more comfortable and easier, and it can be developed to a limitless, almost like a limitless state. Unlike the training of the body. In the case of the training of the body, you can give some training to the body, but after some time there will be a limitation. You may be the number one person in long jump in the whole world, a gold medalist in long jump in the whole world, but there is a limitation. There never will be a time when people will say, oh, he's the number one gold medalist in long jump, so these days he's jumping from one mountain to another mountain. Such is not feasible. Because anything that is physical by nature has a restriction, there's a limitation. But anything that is mental, because of its non-physical nature, there's no limitation. You can progress to a limitless state until you completely become Buddha. There's nobody in this world who said that I studied so much, now there's no space in my brain. Now I can't study more unless that person is sick. He can continue. See, that is the interesting thing, you see, with this human brain or human mind. You continue to learn, you continue to make progress, you continue to make that development. But we are not using that resource. We are only using the external resources. And that's why again His Holiness the Dalai Lama says that as far as the external material resources are concerned, they are limited. But not knowing that, we continue to use the external resources. So those resources which are limited, we take it as if they are unlimited and we continue to use it, thereby destroying the whole external natural resources. When it comes to the internal human mental resources, it is unlimited. You can make limitless progress, but there we are all contented. We are all contented. At the most we will say, oh, this morning I did 5 minutes meditation, 5 minutes puja kiya. As if you have done a great thing, Nothing more than that. In our daily life, nothing. Among the believers, there may be, let us say, 1 billion or whatever believers. When we say we are believers, we are basically saying, I frequently go to the temple or mosque or things like that. But in our daily life, no, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, in our daily life there is no trace of our religious practice. Morning you go to the temple, in the day you go cheating, you go engage in corruption, exploitation, and you are making fun of the God, whatever you are believing, you are making fun of it. You are making a mockery of it, you see. So there's the problem. There's the problem. So therefore, we need to cultivate that peace with perseverance. So now cultivating that peace here primarily is talking about cultivating calm abiding or shamat meditation. Shamat, the Tibetan word shine, English translation, calm abiding. That means your mind is normally not calm. Not calm. It's not calm because your mind is invaded by host of negative emotions. As I said the other day, the negative emotions like anger, jealousy, attachment, hatred are coming. They are frequenting your mind. And your doors and windows of your mind are open for 24 hours. There's no chokidar, no watchman there. So everybody is just playing with your mind, bringing havoc in your life, coming and going as and when they wish, playing with you in whatever way they wish. It's really something like that. It's really something like that. So therefore, now through this practice, what Buddha is saying is, first of all, you should calm your mind and get rid of this invasion of this host of negative emotions. Calm from the disturbances of this invasion of these afflictive emotions, and then let your mind abide on the chosen object, shamat. Because unless you get rid of these afflictive emotions, how will you make your mind stay on the object? It will not be able to abide on the object. Calm, get rid of these negative emotions, and then stay on the chosen object. That's the meaning of shamat or calm abiding. So when you try to focus on that chosen object, then again a lot of disturbances will come. There will be excitement, there will be discouragement. So you need to get rid of all of this and let your mind stay on one chosen object. So this basically means bringing together your energy, bringing together the energy of your mind. So calm abiding or one-pointed meditation basically means bringing together the energy of your mind together. So right now the energy of your mind is scattered. It's thinking here something, is going somewhere, 100,000 things are doing here. And in modern days, even that state is further encouraged by saying multitasking. Multitasking, in a way, you see. So we are doing so many things, but we are not doing anything good in anything. Little bit of things are happening, but nothing great is happening. So what the Buddha is saying is, do something great. Focus your mind. Get rid of these small things, forget about these small things, do something great. In order to do something great, you need to focus, you need to concentrate. Now, especially in the Buddhist practice, concentration is encouraged in terms of helping others. Now, when we talk about helping others, those that are to be helped are so many. Those that are helped are so many. So naturally you need to concentrate. We are asked to cultivate positive qualities. The positive qualities are so important. We must concentrate. So that is the real meaning of one-pointed concentration. It's not just sitting and relaxing, It's concentrating on how to cultivate positive qualities. It is concentrating on how to help sentient beings. So to achieve those purposes, first make your mind, get rid of the negative emotions, and let it learn to concentrate in doing good things, positive things. Okay, so we stop here today. Thank you. May the precious bodhicitta which we have not cultivated be cultivated, and the bodhicitta that we have cultivated may not decline and prosper further. Thank you.